Damba Jumden de Java da Jumba Yandaba Zobe Sanje Riba da Shabsu Demba Devara Sheva Jiden Jamba Jebu Deve Kalu Jorva Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Damba Sanje Jumden de Pe Java Shaja Tuba Ala Shazel Jodo Jaso Je Ho Damba Jomden de Dejen Sheba Ta Jomba Yangda Ba Zobe Sanje Riba Da Shabsu Demba Devara Sheba Jigden Kemba Jebu Dube Kalu Jorba Lana Meba Lada Menam Je Damba Sanje Jomden de Pe Java Shaja Tuba La Chanzel Chudo Jaso Je Ho Damba Jomden de Dejen Sheba Ta Jomba Yanda Ba Zobe Sanje Riba Da Shabsu Demba Devara Sheva Jiden Kemba Jevo Dube Kalu Jorva Lana Meva Lada Menam Je Damba Sanje Chomden Pejawa Shaja Duba La Chaze Chudo Jaso Je Ho Sanje Chudan Soje Chonam Ala Chanju Padu Tani Jaso Je Dagi Cheche Jebe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Sho Sanje Chedan Soje Chonama La Chanju Padu Tane Janso Je Dagi Cheche Jebe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Sho Sanje Chodan Soje Chonama Ala Chanju Padu Tane Janso Je Dagi Cheche Jebe Sonama Je Dola Penje Sanje Dobara Sho. Good morning to all. Okay, where did we stop last? Okay, here we are. I was just admiring that picture, the picture of two honeybees, how engrossed they were in taking out the whatever nectar or whatever it is from the flower. Unaware of any danger, any risk. That's us. That's what Shantideva is trying to tell us. So far, the chapter discusses on the importance of developing the calm abiding or the meditative stability in order to cultivate that kind of mental state. Shantideva then discusses that we need to first eliminate some obstacles, and then on the other hand cultivate the factors that contributes or facilitates the development of that mental state. So far, one of the main obstacles, the main thing that really hinders our practice in general and particularly in the development of development of this mental stability, we need to either completely eliminate the clinging attachment, if not at least reduce that clinging attachment. So for that reason, Shantideva goes into details, first contemplating on the faults of this clinging attachment, how dangerous the clinging attachment can be. It is so subtle, yet so pervasive. It is very difficult to recognize the destruction or the damage it can cause. And it is very, very easy to mistake it as something of a positive thing. Many people mistake our clinging attachment as love, especially when it comes to our loved ones. So it is very important not only to listen to this kind of discussions, but really sit down and contemplate. Bring our own experiences and then examine the role of clinging attachment. Let's say you had some misfortune or some unfortunate incidents in which you have to undergo some kind of mental disturbances, painful experiences. And using that as an example, if you examine that really with an honest mind, unbiased mind, if we examine very closely, we will find that attachment, our clinging attachment, is to be blamed. And if you even dig further, we will realize that actually it is the attachment or clinging attachment to ourselves. This notion of I. For that reason, it is said that the only way to completely sever our clinging attachment is to eliminate that ignorance, the ignorance of not understanding or realizing the true nature of I. Because of our misunderstanding, construction or construction of this I, we develop clinging attachment. And because of that, then comes the my, this concept of my loved ones, my favorite things, my car, my house. And then also this misconception results into developing aversion, anger, hatred against anybody, anything, anyone that negatively affects or hinders or cause harm to those whom we label as my things. So I think if we really want to have some real, what you call conviction, or real feeling, deeper understanding of the damage of clinging attachment, we really need to sit down. We really need to contemplate. Just listening to this kind of talks, sometimes we feel that it doesn't make any sense. It's not that relevant. But of course, there is relevance. There is a point. But we are unable to really connect or draw the line, or draw the main understanding. So let's try. So we stopped here with this analogy that like bees that get their honey from the flowers, take only what will serve the practice of the Dharma, treat everyone like new acquaintances, and keep yourself from close familiarity. So Shantideva earlier discussed about the importance of distancing or disassociating with those people out of our clinging attachment, to distance from those people who can hinder our practice. But sometimes we cannot help. We have no control over people. So in such times, when we have an encounter with such people, then Shantideva advises that we should behave like the way the honeybees, they just focus on taking the honey from the flowers. They don't get attached to the beautiful colors of the flower. They are there with one goal, that is to extract the honey. Likewise, when we encounter other people, treat everyone like new acquaintances. As I mentioned before, when we go to supermarket, when we go to grocery shopping, we encounter so many people. The most we do is just smile, acknowledge, and then we go doing our things. When we have this kind of attachment with another person, then we know that we will engage in some chats and that will lead to gossips. Imagine if you meet somebody whom you know well in a grocery market, grocery shop. And sometimes you may end up hours chatting with that person. Not only one engages in all kind of gossips, also one wastes one's time. So that's why Shantideva treat everyone like a new acquaintances and keep yourself from close familiarity. So when we have this feeling of acquaintances, feeling of this close familiarity, there is greater chance of developing this clinging attachment, then that becomes a problem. Shantideva is not saying that you shouldn't meet anybody, but we have this danger. We are prone to develop clinging attachment when we become too close to a person or thing. Once we have developed this kind of clinging attachment, then it becomes a problem. I think you have heard this before, how we treat a new car, brand new car, and an old rusty car. If you are driving an old car, you don't mind where you park, where you hit, what you hit. But when you are driving a brand new car, you tend to be more careful. Even where you park, you will be very careful to select or choose a parking bay that can be least, destructive to your car. That is attachment. You have strong clinging attachment to the new car. That's why you have all that concern. Whereas you do not have that level of concern when it comes to an old car. I know of a friend who drives a big car, BMW. When it comes to parking, for us, for other people, wherever we find a parking bay, especially if it's nearest to the entrance, we will pick that up. But that friend had to look for a place quite far, a corner lot. So once we were driving, and there was an empty bay. So I pointed to, there's a parking bay. I said, no, I cannot park here. So I said, why? He said, if I park here, there is a danger of being scratched. My car being scratched by a car because of the proximity, close proximity. So this suggests the trouble we have to go through in order, because of our clinging attachment. And this also goes to point out the worldly concerns that often comes in Dharma texts. Sometimes we go after these fancy cars, not just because it is comfortable, not just because that you can easily afford, but it's just the status that we believe it brings, in order to portray that we are successful, in order to portray that we are rich and wealthy. We chase after such branded car. That's why I was told that in India, even amongst Tibetans, especially the young Tibetans, they like to buy branded clothes or bags or whatever it is. But not just branded. That label must be what do you call, loud. Mm? So even if, let's say, the whatever the t-shirt or handbag, whatever it is a branded one. If it does not carry that brand, what do you call, very clearly, or is a big, if there's a no big level label there, then they don't like it. So these all goes to explain that how we are driven by these these worldly concerns. But I mentioned repeatedly that there's no guarantee that when people see this kind of branded clothes or branded car you are driving, it is not guaranteed that they will make the conclusion that you are such a successful person, you are such a wealthy person. People may even say that, oh, trying to show off, trying to pretend, trying to portray that they are successful and they are rich. Why bother when there is no such guarantee to go to such length to acquire such branded things? So that now leads to this point. So we have talked about the danger of developing this clinging attachment to our loved ones and the importance of distancing ourselves. So here we need to understand that Shantideva is not saying that we should stop loving our loved ones. We should stop caring for our loved ones or friends. Shantideva is saying that we need to curb that clinging attachment. Clinging attachment is the problem, is the cause of problem, is the troublemaker. We have to find a way to love someone without that clinging attachment. So one way to look at things is, where is this concern and care come from? Is it because of this, what do you call, is this, does it spring from this self-cherishing attitude? Or is it solely having this concern for the other person? That's why we have such term as unconditional love. Most of our care and love is conditional. We look for returns. You do this, I do this. Sometimes it is actually your care and love is for yourself, because it makes you happy. It's not much to do with the other person. So if we are able to develop love and care and this concern for others, love and care mainly purely for the concern of others' happiness, then it is less likely to be tainted by this clinging attachment. So now we go on to discuss on the material things. We chase after material gains. We develop this attachment towards wealth, fame, status, name, and that becomes a problem. So verse 17. Thani nyema kurti che thala mambu gawo she tendre nyemba changyo na shiwe wado jikpa kes. So one thing we need to understand here is that this Shantideva's, the main audience is the Sangha community. So when I say Sangha community, the ordinary people. In the West, there's a different connotation, different meaning for Sangha community. So when we say Sangha community, are those who are ordained, who have received vows, so mainly monks and nuns. So Shantideva's main audience is Sangha community. So for that reason, many of his in the contents of this are more relevant to the monks and nuns. So when His Holiness gives teachings, so if the teachings are organized by monasteries, in big monasteries, so His Holiness' teaching style is different because the main audience is the monk community. Whereas sometimes in Dharamsala, there are teachings specially for lay community. At that time, you can see the stark difference, the way His Holiness teaches. The teaching style is different, the emphasis is different. So here we need to take that into account. So I have much material wealth as well as honor, and many people like me. So here, as a monk, in those days, monks live on alms. They go out in the morning to receive alms, and even their robes are offered by others. So sometimes when we have strong attachment to these material things, when we are able to obtain abundance in terms of these material wealth, then there is this risk of developing pride, arrogance, and deceit. Likewise, when we are being praised, when people acknowledge you, and you think that, oh, I must be so great, and that kind of inflates our ego, and then we become arrogant. and too proud. So Tibetan word, in Tibetan or even in Dharma, pride has a negative connotation, but in the West, it's a positive connotation. So here, I think it's more of a what you call the arrogance, deceit, this inflated ego. You feel that you are so great because you see people are showing respect. So what happens is when we have this kind of attitude, that arrogant, which is fueled or which is accrued, which is, I don't know, garnered through having material gains, through receiving fame and name, then we will continue in order to sustain that fame and status, in order to sustain that attitude. There is greater chance that we will pursue, we will work harder, we will chase after these things. So what happens is when we develop this kind of arrogance, then these, what we have discussed before, what Shantideva calls the nature of childish, which is to compete, to be jealous of those who are superior than oneself, to compete with your equals, and then denigrate, say derogative insults to those who you see as inferior to you. So this way will nurture self-importance. It says, nurturing self-importance in this way, what happens is, I shall be made terrified after death. When you have that kind of attitude, nobody likes you because your conduct, your speech, your thinking, everything is different. I am superior. I don't have to listen to anybody. I will have my way. That doesn't go well when we are living in a society. So because of that attitude, we will end up engaging in all kinds of negative karma. As a result, I shall be made terrified after death. After death, it is more likely that we will go to the lower realms and we suffer for a long period of time. So basically this is the falls of this negative pride and arrogance. Jagde Pame Kunji Tsawa days, when we became so arrogant, we became less restricted. We became very free to do anything. There is less self-regulation. We see this in leaders. The first term of a president or a prime minister tend to behave quite okay. Then the second term, third term, some countries they allow many terms, and then become more and more corrupted because they develop this arrogance that I am above everything. That's why it's a Jagde Pame Kungi Tsawayins. Then you have no restrictions, no awareness of what is right and what is wrong. And then one engages in all kinds of negative actions. Tewe nambar mongbe yi kangda kangla cha gyurba tedang tedong tong gyuru tu tunyenye du gyurjing tang. So I've combined the two stanzas here. So this is to show that the clinging attachment gives rise to suffering. So you thoroughly confuse mind. So why confuse mind is because you are ignorant of the causes of happiness and the causes of suffering. You do not know what gives rise to happiness and what gives rise to suffering. So you thoroughly confuse mind by piling up of whatever objects you are attached to. Misery a thousandfold will ensue. Because of our clinging attachment, we engage in all kinds of negative actions in order to cultivate more objects of attachment. As a result, misery a thousandfold will ensue. So right now, when we are engaging in that kind of negative actions, we are like planting the seeds. And as the seeds started to pile, and then as the time passes, it multiplies. And when the time comes to experience the results, it would have already become a thousandfold. That's why it says, misery a thousandfold will ensue. Hence, the wise should not be attached, because fear is born from attachment. So this is kind of self-explanatory, especially those of you who have worked. You know that at workplace, one would do, those who have no sense of Dharma, people will do anything to get ahead of others, to get a little bit more in terms of payment. One will be, there will be no hesitance in either telling lie or embellishing or doing all kinds of things, as long as that can benefit you in terms of wealth, in terms of your status, in terms of promotion. And some people purposely engage in, what is that word? To prevent, that's the word, sabotaging others' promotion so that you can get that promotion. But of course, if you have some Dharma, you will think twice. You will weigh the benefits. But how many in this world have this awareness of karma? Among those who have awareness, how many have this, what do you call that, the application? So if you are driven by this kind of clinging attachment to material wealth and fame and status, imagine day after day, month after month, year after year, how many negative actions one would have committed. And compare that with somebody who has no clinging attachment. Let's say who has very little clinging attachment to all this. We have some people. There are people who are not that obsessed with race or promotion. They are just happy at what they are doing. And if you compare that with somebody with so much obsession in terms of promotion, in terms of race, the well-being, the mental wellness of these two people will be completely different. Whereas one would be peaceful and happy, whereas the other one would be more miserable, despite having better race or better salary, higher status. So that's what Shantideva is trying to point out. And for us who wanted to do Dharma practice, in this case, one who wants to develop Samadhi or the calm abiding, imagine if we are driven by clinging attachment towards material gains. We wouldn't find any time to practice, to sit down, to do the meditation, the required meditation. As soon as there is a chance to earn more, we will go after that. So that's the danger. Of course, we need resources to practice. But the problem with us is that we never feel enough. Even though one has enough to live on comfortably, but there is always this desire to want more. That is the problem. 대외 개별 참이자 차벌련이 직박에. Hence, the wise should not be attached. If we think we are a wise one, then we should be wise in terms of reducing our clinging attachment. Once we do that, whether people consider or call you wise or not, we are wise. We become a wise person. So now, in order to reduce our clinging attachment, so there are certain ways one can contemplate on. So here Sandideva suggests contemplating on the uselessness, the pointlessness of accruing, hoarding all this wealth. Because there's no essence. Whatever we have amassed, we cannot, what is it called? We cannot, we have no power to bring it along with us. Deda rangshin dor gyurwe, tembar gide rabdu tok, nyeba thani mang jungshin, chada nyeba chung gyurjang, nyedan chakbe soche de kangdo tongwe, tulme dos. With a firm mind, understand well that is the nature of these things to be discarded. So any material gains that we have amassed eventually has to be discarded. In the picture you see the skin, the snake changing its skin. So the snakes go through this cycle. Regularly they shed the old skin and leave it behind. So we have to view all these material gains in this light, in this way, so that we will be able to reduce our attachment. Although I may have much material wealth, be famous and well spoken of, whatever fame and renown I have amassed has no power to accompany me after death, let alone accompany us after our death. But even in this lifetime, nothing is permanent. We have heard about wealthy people who have lost their wealth overnight. I think I have this here. The 5 biggest net worth losses of modern times. Sam Bankman-Fried, he's now in prison, isn't it? 16 billion fortune evaporated overnight. In the morning, he was a billionaire. The next morning, he was not. Masayoshi Son lost more than 59 billion when his SoftBank share plummeted. It's considered the single biggest overnight loss in net worth. In the morning, he has worth. His net worth is 59 billion, which we cannot even imagine, cannot even fathom the number. But next morning, all gone. Another one, Yasumitsu Shigeta, lost about 40 billion in just a few months. So nothing is guaranteed. In terms of fame, there were so many famous people, one time so famous, but right now people don't even remember their name. Although I may have much material wealth, be famous and well spoken of, whatever fame and renown I have amassed has no power to accompany me after death. Remember when we contemplate on the death and dying, we said that at the time of death, only one's Dharma practice benefits, nothing else. Tibetan, we have a phrase, Magi kine pudambanangshins. That means when you have a strand of hair which got stuck in the butter chunk, you can pull that strand of hair and no butter will be smeared or left on that strand of hair. So that's like us when the time comes. We leave everything behind. So why then? Why work so hard? Why chase after this? When you have enough. So basically all this wealth, fame they are by nature impermanent. So there's no guarantee that it will last forever. Not only it will last in this guarantee to last in this lifetime, but we cannot even take a fraction, not even a iota of things when the time comes. So these are good to reflect. So when we sit down and reflect on this, contemplate on this, then we will be able to develop certain degree of conviction that it is pointless, it is worthless to commit so much of our effort and time. But of course there are people who really do this to benefit others, who are real philanthropists, who really support the needy ones. So that one is not driven by the clinging attachment to these wealths, but mainly driven by the desire, intention to benefit others. That's a different story. But most of us are driven by this amassing more and more and more. That's because we have this attachment, this clinging attachment. The stronger our attachment to our material gains, the more we suffer when we lose. Somebody who has less clinging attachment to one's money, if that person loses 1,000, he may be okay. But whereas who have a strong attachment, if that person loses even $1, he may lose his sleep over it. So that is the stark difference of what a clinging attachment does. So now we go on to one thing we are so attached to is the praise. We chase after praise. We hate to hear criticism. We enjoy praise. We are happy when people say nice things about us. We despise those who criticize us. So that is also coming from having this attachment to praise. So that is also we need to curb. So the way to curb that, way to reduce that clinging attachment is contemplating on this verse. This is one of my favorite stanzas from Bodhicaryavatara. Tala möba shen yu na töbe tagar chi shi yu. Tala töba shen yu na mebe mega chi shi yu. If there is someone who despises me, what pleasure can I have in being praised? So sometimes we really get elated and we get kind of what is the word now? So anyway, basically saying that there's no reason to be so elated about being, hearing about nice things about yourself. No need to be so attached to that person who praises you. That is the normal way, isn't it? You develop friendship. You develop positivities towards someone who praises you. And then slowly it becomes into clinging attachment. All because that person has said something nice things about you. So Shandita was saying that we don't need to get so, elated by it. We don't need to be so attached to praise, because not everybody is praising. While someone is praising, there are others who are criticizing you. So it's not like everybody is praising for you. So there's no reason to be so attached to praise. Likewise, sometimes we get so depressed, we get so angry when we hear about unpleasant things about ourselves, we develop anger and hatred towards that person. That one, Shanti was saying, also no need to take such a drastic reaction to criticism, because while that person is criticizing us, there are others who are praising us. It's not that the whole world is criticizing you. There are many who are appreciating you, who are recognizing your qualities, who are singing praise of you. So no need to be, it's basically it's like at the two ends. No need to be polarized. Try to balance that. When you feel a bit hurt, always remind yourself that, oh, that's one person saying nasty things about me. There are others who are praising me. So if you have one person praising you, another person criticizing you, so it's actually the same. One kind of cancels the other. So same. Likewise, when you feel so elated about something, hearing upon a praise, then you also kind of calm yourself. Bring your this elation down by saying, oh, why should I be so excited about this? Because there are other things. Let's be neutral. So I find this very, very useful. It's very logical and very easy to understand. It's not convoluted logic. It's simple. So now this is about duzi. Duzi means associating with a group of people, attending these events, all this, where you get distracted. So I was told that there are, amongst a Tibetan community, there are people who have refused to go to any kinds of gatherings. The main reason is that when we are at a gathering, we have to partake in a conversation. And then in that, what you call, process, or in that communication, we cannot avoid not engaging in gossips, and sometimes all the all the four non-virtues of speech. Sometimes we have to tell lies, sometimes we have to embellish. I think I mentioned this before. While in monastery, we have one person. So he tells stories, but it's always very exciting, very entertaining, but mainly because he embellishes. If there were, let's say, 5 people, he would say, oh, there were 50 people there, and everything is hyped up. So it sounds interesting, it's entertaining, but at the end, after the person finished telling the stories, we always say that, how much should I discount that? 50%? 75%? We always ask that. So when you are in a group like this, so it happens, and especially when people are being entertained, you get encouraged to say more, tell more lies, embellish more, and sometimes completely make up stories. And it is very hard to remain silent. And I shared with the Tibetan group that one time I was very mindful. Over here we get invited to do pujas. So sometimes it will be a big group. So one particular day I made up my mind, I set my mind from the morning that today I will be mindful of my speech. I will try not to participate in our conversation. I will just remain silent and listen, not speak. So as I have made that determination in the morning, so I was mindful of that. So I remained silent. And it obviously, I normally take part in these conversations. So obviously it becomes so obvious that they ask me, is something wrong with you? You are very quiet. So it kind of forces you to partake in the conversation. So most of the time conversations end to be otherworldly things, especially nowadays. It always turns out, it always, what do you call it? It always goes on to the topic of politics. What is happening? Either Tibetan politics or the US politics. So when you start talking politics, there's a lot of emotions. You cannot help but to say things that are not virtue. So that's why it is very, very dangerous. That's what Shantideva was trying to point out. Reduce our participation in these gatherings. But of course, it is a real Dharma gathering, then it's okay. Let's go for a drink. Okay, you go for a drink in a bar. You drink 1 glass, 2 glasses, and then what happens? So if our intention is to so we may argue. Remember, earlier Shantideva was saying that we should really distance ourselves with the childish, because we won't be able to benefit them and they would hinder our practices. So here we may argue that, oh, if I'm able to please everybody, then there will be no harm to me, and also I may be able to help that other person. So here Shantideva is refuting that argument by saying that childish are rarely pleased. There is no way we can please all the people. Simjen myoba na soba gewe kyani miguna dada nyembe myo chigwe dewe jingden sambatang. If even the conqueror was unable to please the various inclinations of different beings, then what need to mention an evil person such as I? Therefore, I should give up the intention to associate with the worldly. So our intention may be good. We think that if I'm able to please everybody, then it is not a difficult task to benefit them. I may be even help them. It may not cause any harm to me. They will be nice to me. But so that's kind of impossible. Even Buddha himself was unable to do so. Remember, during Buddha's time, how many out of, I don't know at that time what the world population was, out of that number, only a fraction of people have developed faith in Buddha. Most of them are neutral, but there were a group of people who really hated Buddha. Buddha couldn't help them. In this time, in modern time, His Holiness Dalai Lama is believed to be the manifestation of Chenrezig Avalokiteshvara. And 99% of the Tibetan people have strong faith, devotion to His Holiness. But there is a fraction of people, despite being Tibetan, they do not have that kind of devotion. So from this we can see that it is not possible. It's mainly because of the people's various inclination. You see in the picture, there are 4 or 5 different types of cupcakes. Not everybody will like the dark chocolate cake. Some will like the carrot cake. Some will like the, I don't know what else is there. So we have different tastes. We have different inclination. We have different levels of intelligence. So even now when I am talking, some of you find it interesting, but some of you may not. And out of 100 people that listen to, one person may find it useful and beneficial. The rest may not find. Despite my intention to benefit all, that does not happen. So that's why that I will be able to please everybody and thereby benefit everybody is a very naive thinking. And who are we actually? One need to mention an evil person. Of course, here the translation was evil, but evil not in that sense, because we are beginners, we are ordinary. We don't even know other people's inclinations. We don't know well of our closest friends, let alone knowing everybody. So Buddha gave this example. Ngala theba ni semyu tengi duyu zamdang, mateba ni sa ichimbur zamos. Buddha himself said that those who have developed faith in me is like what do you call, a particle soil particle that is on the tip of one's nail. Whereas those who have not yet developed faith in Buddha is like that huge particles of grain, soil in the whole earth, whole world, whole ground. So there's this spark difference. So even Buddha couldn't do, so it's like, how could we? So at this stage, we should let go of that thought or that attitude that I will be able to help them by mingling with them. Therefore, I should give up the intention to associate with them. Okay, let me just finish one. Oh, we are already here, yeah. So anyway, I wanted to, time is already, I wanted to address this. So here you said we have to distance this, we cannot benefit them. We should really abandon this association with childish. And then earlier of all that part, we were saying that, we should always, we shouldn't abandon sentient beings. As a Bodhisattva, we should not abandon sentient beings. We should always work towards benefiting sentient beings. So, is there a contradiction? So here it says that there is no contradiction. Why? Because here we are talking about that desire to associate with other is born out of clinging attachment. So anything that is driven by this clinging attachment is a problem. So if our association, wanting to associate with others, mingling with others, if that is all driven by this clinging attachment, because sometimes we enjoy company of others, so that suggests that there is this attachment there. So if anything that is driven by this clinging attachment, then we should abandon them. We should distance ourselves. But we should always hold that attitude to benefit sentient beings. The whole journey to Buddhahood is or should be driven by this intention to benefit sentient beings, out of concern for them, driven by this unconditional love, not by this clinging attachment. So we need to distinguish between these two driving forces. One is out of compassion, out of genuine love, out of genuine concern, but other one is out of clinging attachment. So clinging attachment is the one that we need to tackle. So if your association, wanting to associate with others, is really driven by this this genuine concern for others, maybe okay. If there's no element of clinging attachment as a driving force, then you don't need to abandon all this. We should not give up that intention to associate with the worldly. Okay, I think we stop here. Let's dedicate. Dagi jini zawe gyawa de tendan jowa kunla kangben dan gyabara chizun lo zan tabai dembe nyingbo rindo seje sho jambe bawe chedara kemba dan kundu zangbo tenyan tejen do teta gungi jesu talo gyawa deda tamje rabdo ngo duson shekben gyawa tamje ge ngowa kanla chodo ngakwa de tagi gewe tsawa de gunja zambu jeje rabdo ngo war yes. Thank you.